back here live at WLCN Viewpoint. Our guest today is Kristi Lessen, a very bright young lady who is very involved in the community. We really appreciate your not only your professional employment, but the things that you do to get involved for the betterment of our community. We just briefly, you mentioned your daughter, and on a personal note, foreign adoptions are not uncommon at all. Perhaps here in Lake and Logan County they might be.
You'd be surprised.
I'm sorry, dear?
You'd be surprised. There's more than
I would
you
be
think.
surprised.
Yes.
I'm glad to hear that. Guatemala, and you have your youngsters from Guatemala, and
Yes.
that proved to be quite an experience. And could you just briefly take us through how long it took to do that and the process? You had to be extremely patient to start with.
And I'm not a patient person, really. I like instant gratification. I always have.
Well, especially when you're waiting for two babies. I could remember the
Well, that's
time
remarkable.
when you were doing
Yes,
that.
yes. Well, to make a long story kind of a little bit longer,
Gotta be
sorry.
off the air by 9.
But to how it came about with Guatemala is my husband and I were having difficulty becoming pregnant and decided to adopt. And we attended a meeting through, I think it's LifeLink, and it was in Champaign that we attended this meeting on international adoption. And I was interested in China, and he became interested in Guatemala just because you didn't have to travel there. And being a Lincoln boy and a farm boy, he wasn't real interested in traveling far distances. He was in the Air Force, but, he didn't really like to travel far distances. So we looked at that and we discussed it a little bit, and then an opportunity presented itself for domestic adoption, and that one fell through. And then we had an accident. My husband passed away.
Yes.
So I decided to go ahead and do the international adoption, and sort of chose Guatemala tongue-in-cheek just because that was what he wanted, knowing I was going to travel there. But also it seemed to be less time involved as some of the other countries. China can take 2 years, and some other countries can take just as long. And when I met with LifeLink in Springfield, they suggested Guatemala because the time wasn't as long, and I was 37 when I started the process. So I received the referral for my son in March of 07. He was, I want to say, 4 months old. Yeah, 4 months old. He was born in November of 06. And during that time, I received the referral and had a lot of paperwork going on, and was very excited and was receiving pictures and videos of him through the social workers, and decided to take a trip to go visit him, and set that up for August of 07. July of 07, I received an email. I think it was 2 weeks before I was supposed to go visit. I received an email from my social worker, who was based out of Florida, saying that they had a 6-week-old little girl who needed a paper-ready family, and I had been approved for 2 because I didn't want to split up a sibling group if there happened to be one, and would I consider her? Well, I don't know what made me think it would change my mind or anything, but I asked for a picture. You see a 6-week-old baby little girl in a picture, what are you going to do?
Oh, exactly.
So I said, yes, I will take her, and she was able to actually come and visit with us at the hotel as well when I was there. So I got to hold my daughter for the first time when she was 8 weeks old, and my son, he was about 6 weeks old. I'm sorry, he wasn't 6 weeks old. He was about 8 months old. They're about 6.5 months apart in age. So they will be in the same grade in school, which I kind of like. They're very close, but they also fight really well together too.
Well, welcome to the real world.
Yeah, exactly. But I would say for my son, the process took 13 months. They came home in April. They actually came home on the same day, which is unbelievable. My daughter's process took 10 months. They came home the exact same day. There were some issues going on within the local government where my son was born that prolonged his process a little bit. And I had to, when I got the okay for him, I knew that my daughter's okay wasn't too far to come home as well, and decided I was going to stay there, but happened to contact Senator Durbin's office in Springfield and said, you know, I'm not leaving the country until I can bring both of them home at the same time. It's just too close, and it made more sense because I didn't want to bring one home and then go back and do all that. And they must have pulled some strings, because later that afternoon I got the email saying come in Monday morning, and that was a Friday. So we went, and then we were home then that following Thursday.
What a thing. What a thing.
And that was 3 years ago.
Well, being an adoptive parent, and you know, Gene and I went to the store for ours.
Yes.
And they were infants. One was 10 days old, one was 3 weeks old, so we did everything except the 9-month pregnancy business,
Right.
you know.
It's not that fun anyway, Bill.
Yeah. Well, that's so they say. In any event, you know, I just thought it was an unusual, and you since said that Guatemala, there are no more infant adoptions.
No,
or
and
adoptions, period.
I think God was watching out for me, because I think I knew that I would want another child. I didn't want to have an only child.
Sure.
Siblings are so important. You know, I learned that same year. You know, siblings are there for you every step of the way. Even you know, in-law siblings. It's just important to have that connection. So I didn't want to have my son be an only child, and I thought that I really would want, from the same country, to have that connection as well.
Yeah.
And I think, you know, God was watching out for me, and that's how I got the referral for my daughter.
Well, they were very blessed, and so are you.
They've blessed me in more ways than I can count.
Yeah, I didn't want to get into your personal background or anything, but I thought it was such an unusual story. We have known about foreign adoptions for a long time, and these youngsters, for the most part, but happily, for the most part, it's a great thing for them. Some it doesn't quite work out as well, but that's the way life is, unfortunately. Right. But we thank you for that, and I doff my fedora to you for that dedicated service. Now, let's get back to work.
Okay.
Let's go into the what would be your next course of events insofar as your planning is concerned for what you're now engaged in?
Well, I do have to say that this being Memorial Day weekend, this will be the first weekend that our Alcohol, Tobacco, and Other Drug Task Force will be offering safe rides home from bars and parties. We tried to pick some of the busiest drinking nights of the year to offer safe rides through the cab company home. The task force pays for the cab rides for people home, so they don't have to worry about the fee for that. We're doing that Friday, Saturday, and Sunday night. We will be offering free cab rides home from any of the bars in Lincoln or any parties that may be happening, and it's only within Lincoln city limits that we are able to do that.
There's no way to measure it, but just think of the number of lives you could be saving.
One of the objectives of that task force is to decrease DUIs. I don't want to say that it's because of the safe rides, but last year DUIs were decreased by 10% within Lincoln and Logan County because of, for some reason or another, I don't want to say it's because of the safe ride, but we offered 100 safe ride, or over 100 safe rides last year. I think it was 101, and on the nights that we offered them, there was only one DUI. We looked at Memorial Day, Labor Day, and Art and Balloon Fest for this coming year to see how many DUIs were during that time as well, and I believe there was one last year for Memorial Day, and one for Labor Day, or two for Labor Day, and one for Art and Balloon Fest. So we're offering rides during those weekends as well this year for the first time.
Good.
Now you see here again, somebody is doing some legwork by going back into the records and checking. Somebody's got to do that.
Well, and we have to thank Kim Turner from probation. She goes back and gets that information for me and supplies me with that information. So, you know, like I said, I can't do it alone. It's those 56 agencies and organizations that really help me get that information out.
Well, the priest in the church can't do it alone. He's got to have the congregation helping him out to get the job done. So, you know, after all, it just seems to me that if you only save one life, that's a major impact, you know.
What is the drug picture? You talk about this being the Drug and Alcohol Task Force. What's the drug picture in Logan County? Does it seem to be escalating? Does it seem to be going down? What's the abuse rate?
It depends on what drug you're talking about, I believe.
Oh,
Well, there are so many different ones that are out there. I've heard that heroin is making a comeback, and it's on the rise in Mason County. Knock on wood, we haven't seen any overdoses come into our emergency department in Lincoln. I just found that out because I asked last week. But with it being in Mason County and Tazewell County and some in Chicago, and it's making its way back, and hopefully we can keep that at bay. We're not really doing anything specific for that, but that is one of the drugs that is making a comeback.
What about meth?
Meth, I think the law that was passed in keeping it with purchasing the pseudoephedrine, it's behind the counter. That has seemed to really help a lot. I've heard that the meth isn't as heavy as the heavy use as it used to be, and I think that's made a big impact with that. But over-the-counter and prescription drug abuse are really kind of big. And one of the things that we've tried to help with that is we have the drug recycling program. We partnered with Stacy's Family Pharmacy, and they have a box in there that you can just take your expired or unused over-the-counter or prescription medication and just drop it off, no questions asked, and it will be disposed of. And we were working with trying to find other pharmacies who are willing to have that program as well.
Which really, it's not really time-consuming for the pharmacy to participate in that.
No, we have found that Sharps Incorporated, they have boxes that we can purchase, the task force has purchased, and the Parish Nurse Task Force is willing to step in on this initiative as well, is to, you purchase the box and it pays for the mailing back to Sharps Inc., and then they dispose of it. They incinerate everything that's in it.
I used to think that if you had anything left over, the best way of disposing of it was going to be to put it in the toilet, but that's really annoying.
No, it's not. Yeah, I thought that too. But
we all did that.
Yeah,
we just didn't know.
And with it going in the water supply, it's not good for that either.
I think I'm not the sharpest knife in the drawer, but that
you're not the dullest either.
Well, she's cut me several times.
Well, there you go.
That really, it makes sense. But it was something that had never dawned on me. But we must never, ever flush those things down the toilet.
No.
That's a bad plan.
And you want to get rid of them because,
you don't want
little kids could accidentally get into them. There are so many other medications that are out there. I don't want to give ideas of what to do, but there are so many things that it can be misused for.
Oh, sure.
So, parents need to be aware of that as well, even for teenagers and things like that, because they use them for not even knowing what it is.
Oh, right. Yeah, they mix what they call fruit salad.
Yeah.
It's amazing there aren't more deaths.
Yeah.
Well, I was talking about this drug problem. When you're, quote, I think normal, quote, particularly geezers and geezerettes are kind of out of the loop insofar as knowledge about that is concerned, and we don't understand, we don't begin to fathom the impact that a drug or the use of drugs can have on an individual or individuals, sometimes family members. And it's a horrendous problem, and again it goes back to the socioeconomic business. You just can't begin to understand why people would do that to themselves, but alcoholism is the same thing. Same kind of an opiate, a drug, and that's an unfortunate fact of life, and you have to work around those things.
Another task force you have deals with teen pregnancy, and that's a sad story. It used to be that many times a young girl would give her baby up for adoption, but that's not done so much anymore at all.
No, you don't see that hardly at all anymore.
It's hardly thought of as an option, is it?
Well, you can blame the media for that, particularly TV, DVDs and so forth. For a lot of that, it lays it right out there for everybody to absorb and look at and indulge in. And if it wasn't so widespread out there for everybody, we might have less pregnancy. I don't know. Kind of a Pandora's way of thinking about it. But
just would that there were fewer. That's all. Do you feel that that you're making inroads? What do the statistics tell you?
It looks, our statistics show that there has been a decline over the past several years, and we get our statistics from the Illinois Department of Public Health, and we measure the ones that are 17 and under, so those that are out, those that are still in high school. We're not counting the ones that are out of high school, because sometimes you can be 18, 19 years old and decide to get married, not just because there's that you're pregnant or anything like that, but that you want to get married, and there are people that do that, and then could go on to have a baby as a 19-year-old. So we don't want to count those in, because there are a lot more that are 18 and 19 years old that are counted in those numbers.
We hear about the upper age limit after which it's probably best not to be having babies.
My age.
Well, or mine, for that matter.
Well, there you go.
However, what are the chances of things going wrong when a person is indeed very young? Does that affect the development of the child?
Yeah, I think it can. Because number one, the teen would be more likely to hide the fact that they're pregnant, so they would probably not be getting prenatal treatment or be taking the prenatal vitamins. And this goes along with other things. They could find prenatal vitamins from somebody else and take them, and it goes along with the drug and alcohol thing. But also with teen pregnancy, they miss so much school that sometimes they end up dropping out. That goes along with the education task force. A lot of our task forces kind of have intertwining objectives, which I like. I think that it will better the health and quality of life of our county if we can all work together for a common cause.
It does. When you said that, I was just thinking that same thing. It sounds like one program segues into the next, right along, from the young children right on through the senior.
Yes.
Interesting, isn't it?
Yeah.
There's some connection at every level.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, excuse me. Go
No.
ahead. No.
I'm sorry. I just talk all
I
the
stand down.
time. Do you?
Oh, yeah.
Do you?
I defer to the senior partner.
And another task force that you have looks at sexually transmitted diseases.
Yes, it's the same. It's the Healthy Families Task Force. It's the same one as the teen pregnancy prevention one.
Is that on the rise or not? Are people getting the message?
It's hard to say if they're getting the message or not. I know I told you during the break that not necessarily in Logan County, but nationwide, the highest growing population for STDs are our seniors. And like I said, we can thank Viagra for that. And seniors also don't necessarily have never had, thinking back to when they were younger, it wasn't
rampant.
birth control. Well, there wasn't birth control.
No.
Oh yeah, that's true.
Or it wasn't
abstinence, and nobody could spell it.
There you go. I don't know that I could today, so
Well, you
can't
know,
spell it. You can't practice, right?
All they had to do, Kristi, is look at those training films they gave to young soldiers and airmen way back when we all enlisted, and one look in those sailors.
Put the fear of God in you.
And you say, well, it's not for me, baby. Scare the daylights out of you. Well, we've come up to 9 o'clock again. And Judith, I appreciate very much your coming up and spending some time with us, and also sharing your little personal anecdote. That's very much appreciated. The program always tries to sign off with a quote, and here's one. You ever hear of Mahatma Gandhi?
I think so.
Okay.
Yes, I have.
All righty. Fellow run around in short pants all the time. Knobby knees, just like me.
Slender guy.
Yeah, slender guy, very small. Anyway, he was a great man in the
Yes.
world. And Mahatma Gandhi said, live if you were to die tomorrow. Learn as if you were to live forever.
It's one of my favorite quotes.
Thank you for Viewpoint. Thank you.
Many people worry they don't have what it takes to manage their own investments. At Edward Jones, your financial advisor works with you